Welcome, Legionnaires, to the Long Live the Legion podcast, where we talk about the Legion of Superheroes comic book team and break subjects down so that whether you're just out of the Legion Academy or you're a longtime veteran, you get to know the team a little bit better. I'm your co-host, Jim.
And I'm your co-host, Jay.
And welcome to episode number 36. What's on our mission monitor board today, Jay?
We have a very special spotlight on a very interesting Legionnaire. This is an entire spotlight on, and I'm not going to swear because this is a child-friendly podcast, on Mother Effin' Starboy. I'm going to want to keep quoting The Weeknd the entire episode to get through this. We are talking Starboy for, it's probably going to be longer than we expected. There's so much here. I'm so excited because I was expecting Starboy to be like a semi-boring subject, and instead, wow. And to make this podcast even more exciting, we have a very special guest. Mart, could you please introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are?
Hello, my name is Martin Dre, a comic fan from the United Kingdom, currently living in Scotland, well, since 1999, no plans to leave. I've been a long-time Legion fan. In fact, it's a short-lived DC Comics reprint weekly in the UK where I chose the Legion to be the lead-off strip. And in fact, for the free gift for the first 3 issues, we created some Legion of Superheroes postcards based on famous covers, which are, I think they're quite collectible in my house. But as I said, I'm just looking forward to talking about Starboy. And I do not get the reference to The Weeknd. Is that the pop group, The Weeknd?
The singer, yeah. So
Yes.
and I'm legally obligated to say this as a Canadian, the Canadian singer, The Weeknd. It's one of those rules being Canadian is if the celebrity is Canadian, we have to point that out. Sorry, I have no choice. They take my passport away if I don't. Yes, that's the reference.
That's a good song. So we are talking about Starboy, and just before we were going to go live here and start recording, I was telling the guys here that I was not expecting this subject to be as interesting as it was, as from a researching perspective. I mean, honestly, Jay, you kind of mentioned it here before when we started. I was kind of feeling like this is when was going to be similar to the Colossal Boy research, right? Because it was a great episode that we had with Leia, and it was a very interesting talk. But as a character, Colossal Boy is he's kind of one note, right? And Tom Kallor has a lot to him. I mean, I was kind of gobsmacked when I started going through and making my little report here.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy to say he might be the second most used or referenced Legionnaire outside of Legion comics. I mean, I put Mon-El first because he keeps showing up in all the Superman stuff. But I mean, Starboy's got a bunch of stuff in his origin and some really interesting stuff that most Legionnaires don't get to do. Then you could argue in the 80s, he's the symbol of the Legion growing up. And then by the time we get to the 2000s, he's in JSA and he's a big part of Lightning Saga, Legion of Three Worlds, even Last Stand on New Krypton. Like he's doing a ton of stuff. And I think you can also say he might have the most recognizable costume in the Legion. Like he's a big, big character. So yeah, I was not expecting this. Now I will not stand for this Colossal Boy slander that's going on right now, but I agree with you on this. Like I was expecting this to be a very okay, he's this character and he's pretty white bread is maybe a good way of describing it.
Yeah.
But no, there's a lot here. Mart, what do you think?
I'm with you. I was, before we started doing the research, I was thinking, well, yeah, there's the classic period, and there's the reboot, the Archie Legion, and there's the reboot where he wasn't around very much. Then it's like, gosh, yeah, there's the GSA and there's Starman, and then there's the prehistory of Starboy with Superboy, and there's this, that, and the other, and there's even a Peanuts link. Well, just in my head, there's a Peanuts link, but. Yeah, it was just grateful. But yeah, well, I mean, this is why before we came on camera and started recording, I'm saying to you, I hope I've got enough to contribute. I think I must have missed so much on here, but I would like to, straight away put in a thank you to the Legion of Super Bloggers, to Russell and Siskoid, because I used their Starboy thing as a starting reference point to sort of, have I got that? Have I got that? Have I got that? Because there's some excellent stuff in there, and it just kept sending me to the comics, which of course sent me down little sideways rabbit holes, nothing to do with Starboy. So it's been fun. I'm looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, I mean, the Legion of Super Bloggers is a handy reference to have, and we have it on hot links pretty much all the time because they do such a good job of covering Legion subjects. I'm really kind of excited to see what they're going to do when the new title starts up. So let's get into who this guy is. So Tom Kallor is the Starboy's real name. So he was introduced in Adventure Comics number 282 from March 1961. And here's something that I didn't know until I was researching this. Apparently, he was kind of the second go around for a character called Mars Boy that basically had the same powers and basically had the same story when that character was first introduced. So yeah, that was kind of interesting piece. But yeah, anyway, long story short, he's introduced in the early 60s and he has this power set of creating mass, meaning he makes things heavier.
But that's not his original power set, which is
That's right.
even more interesting about him. When he first shows up in Adventure Comics, that first appearance, he's basically kind of a Superman analog. So he's got super strength, invulnerability, flight. He's got infrared vision, I think is what they wrote, but yet he can't see through copper. So Superman can't see through lead, and they gave him sort of the exact same limitations. And I think it was one of those, it's kind of like Captain Comet, or kind of like you said, Mars Boy. And I think DC was very much just trying to keep pushing out, okay, who's the new Superman, or who's the new Superboy, or can we catch lightning in a bottle again and make this work? He joins the Legion in the beginning. He's shown as a member, but it isn't until he starts appearing in the Legion that they basically depower him and make it so that he can control. Do you want to say density, or do you want to say weight? What's the best way of?
I guess technically speaking, it would be density, since we're talking about stars, and ultimately, I guess we'll get to this a little bit later too. But eventually, he does create a black hole, and that is essentially a star collapsing in on its own weight. So yes, I would say density.
I think we're thinking about that much more than the early Legion writers did.
Yes.
Otto, because I think it was Otto Bindu first repurposed that third Mars Boy story. I think Tom's lucky in that he didn't have to inherit Mars Boy's skirt. That was a bad look. But yeah, as you say, exact same story. He's in a story and the whole thing is to make Lana Lang's trying to make Superboy jealous. And the difference is that Starboy has electric vision. They don't tell you what electric vision actually does, I don't think. It's just like, he has electric vision.
No, well, they don't need to explain it back I don't think the 60s, they were too worried about making anything make sense. It was just, hey, here's this guy. His costume kind of looks like Superboy's, just with a color shift. He's got the big logo on his chest. He's got the cape. And you just kind of use these fancy words to, electric vision. And it's like,
yeah.
Well, like, okay, so he can see electricity? Who cares? Like, he can see through stuff. We're good. It's like, I don't know why, like, Superman had X-ray vision and then Ultra Boy had penetravision. Like, it was just, let's just come up with different ways of saying the same thing. And he had that traditional 60s origin story of he flies through the tail of a comet, and that's how he gets his superpowers.
Original, yes.
I think electric vision was meant to be, if I remember rightly, electric vision was meant to be in addition to X-ray vision. There was something different. And they made a point of saying in the story that, this is something Superboy can't do. So it wasn't like Penetra, it wasn't just another name. It was something clever and of itself. But am I the only one who thought he looked like Shermie from Peanuts?
I mean, I always keep thinking when I look at him of, it's that, like, the crew cut army guy. Like, I kind of picture, I'm trying to think of the best comparison. Peanuts is probably really good, but the haircut kind of makes him look, it was an interesting choice. We'll just put it.
He was more of like an aviator haircut, right? Like an astronaut would wear in the 60s, right? And so he had that, like you said, that kind of that crew cut look. And that's how I always kind of envisioned Tom, as being this guy who's just a really by the book, stalwart kind of dude who likes to make sure that everything is proper, everything is in its place, and do your duty, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and I like that look because it was unique to the Legion boys. Okay, he got the unique look by having the beard later, but in the 60s, you instantly knew, he could be in the back of a crowd shop in monotone, and you knew it was Tom. Even if it was just his head. Brainiac 5, you wouldn't know because he's just another same haircut. Can't tell the colour of the face, but I love that, and I love the fact that originally the costume was a little bit more scoop neck than normal, which just was a bit different. I love that colour scheme. It's my favourite Tom costume, which is probably sacrilege.
That's a bold take. I'm going to give you that one. So it's, I agree with the color scheme. It does stand out on a page, especially when most of the Legion is very, standing next to Invisible Kid. It kind of shows when the color doesn't work as well. It's really dramatic. It does look really good. I was gonna say like maybe the crew cut was inspired a little bit of like the John Glenn Wright stuff, like those guys in the '60s. Like, sorry, that's what it just kind of came to my brain as I was trying to think of an analog there.
Exactly.
And I think Jim, you're right. Like the idea of him being the straight laced by the book, but then that was kind of Colossal Boy as well. So it's kind of that added comparison. He's not used a lot in the '60s in the very beginning. Like he actually has 2 years between his first appearance and then he actually shows up in the Legion again.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like they didn't know what to do with him. Or again, it's the Silver Age. Nobody was paying attention.
Yeah, for sure. Here's something interesting. When I was doing some of this research over the last week, I have the 3 Legion Silver Age omnibus books sitting on my shelf back here, and the story of Starboy's introduction is actually not in that volume. Believe it or not. For whatever reason, they did not collect that particular story in the edition that I have here. So I don't know.
I assume I've got some of the archives and other reprints.
I don't know if it's in the archives or not. That's a good question.
I just always assumed that they would have all the best appearances, and all the extras like the Legion of Super Girlfriends and Jimmy Olsen and things like that. But so it's just strictly the Legion strip from 300.
Yeah. So they have like the first appearance of most of the characters. I'd say almost every character, but Starboy is the one where they don't have that Adventure Comics 262 or 282 story for some reason. I don't know.
Interesting. So it was it's the Legion Silver Age Volume 1 that I've got and it shows up. It's in that one. Sorry, I'm just pulling up the first archives and I mean, it might be in this one to be honest, but I mean, it's a very, I don't even want to say weird. Like it's a very non-Legion. Well, I guess it is kind of a Legion-y story. Like a lot of the Legion Silver Age stuff is just they show up and then Supergirl or Superboy, especially the early ones, like that first Supergirl issue where they just kind of show up to test her. Like, hey, are you good enough to be a Legionnaire? And this was very much, the way I call it, it's the psychotic Lana Lang story where she's just like, wow, for the whole issue, like just stalkerish to a crazy level. But it's very much, it's just a throwaway, like, I joined the Legion. And then they just have, I think, 1 or 2 panels where they show up. So, and it does show more Starboy disrespect, which I think is also fairly true theme for a lot of Starboy DC
seems to be. It really seems to be. So, I mean, we don't really see his star start to rise, pardon the pun, until Dream Girl shows up, really. They're very much paired together throughout their history in the Legion.
Because he doesn't really show up until the issue before Dream Girl joins the team. And I'm air quoting that because she kind of joins just to throw everything off to save somebody's life. And then, they're both on the team and they kind of, quickly establish they're together. And then ironically enough, one of the best, this is pre-Shooter, right? Or is this Shooter here? My memory has gone here. Sorry.
I'll have to take a look.
And then he kills somebody, which is funny when you read the Silver Age comics, like there's death everywhere and there's tons of people dying. But the basic plot is Dream Girl's ex-boyfriend shows up and is like, I'm going to kill you because you stole Dream Girl from me. And Tom pulls a branch off a tree and kills him using his powers. And the Legion is like, okay, you killed this person. You're off the team. And then Dream Girl quits to stay with him. And it's a pretty dramatic moment, especially at this point in Silver Age Legion.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I don't think Dream Girl was there because I think she went off at the end of her first appearance to the Substitute Heroes. And she didn't become a member until he came back after his period of exile.
Right.
Sorry, you're right. Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly right. Yeah. So I just checked on here, Jay. So Adventure 342 was written by Edmund Hamilton. So that's how that happened. And then, so Dream Girl, when she first appears, like you said, she comes in there to save the Legion because she saw a vision where they died. And so she kind of arranged it so that it didn't really happen. And then she goes off. And then when this other incident happens, it's a former boyfriend of Nora's who is really jealous and wants to go after Tom. I have his name is Ken's Newhor. And like you said, Starboy kills this person. And then they both go off to the Substitute Heroes for a bit to, I guess, still keep their hero card active, as it were.
I should have known it was Edmund Hamilton who wrote this because it involves the Legion of Substitute Heroes. And he seemed to just use them as much as he could. He seemed to enjoy them more.
That story, Brainiac 5, I don't know whether it was anticipating, I think it was the 3-boot where Brainiac 5 and Dreamer got together, but he really had a common to prosecute Starboy in that story. There was, because we know in the story, he was legally let off by the science police because it was self-defense. And Brainiac 5 is like, no, I'm going to prosecute. And Superboy can be our defense, Superboy who has no legal knowledge. And they have this Legion vote, and it just seems so unfair that they prosecuted him. What do you guys think of that?
This whole thing has always rubbed me the wrong way, right? Just because it's Brainy going after the fact and saying, yeah, you know what, you could have done this. It's, all this Monday morning quarterbacking, as we like to call it here in the States, of, oh yeah, you could have saved his life. You didn't have to kill him. Even though, Tom had seconds to act to make a decision, right?
And Brainy had a 12th level intellect or whatever.
Yeah, come on, Brainy.
Well, I mean, Brainy was a bit of a dick for most of the Silver Age.
Yeah.
I mean, he was hands down the most misogynistic character on the team. And I mean, again, like, we're coming at this from 2026 when you're like, hey, give a little depth to this. But I think the reality was probably Hamilton wanted a big dramatic moment, and he thought the smartest person would be the one who would care about the law. I don't think they were reading anything like romantically into this for Dreamgirl.
No.
Because, I mean, they had everybody crushing on Dreamgirl when she showed up. Like, it would have almost made just as much sense if it had been Cosmic Boy or even Superboy. Like, I remember that first appearance where everyone was just like, Dreamgirl. And you're like, she looks exactly the same as all the other women on the team because John Forte draws all the women the same. Like, what?
She's got a beauty spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Marilyn Monroe beauty mark.
Yeah,
exactly.
But that's very fair. They say the most misogynistic because my little comic book review blog is called "Too Dangerous for a Girl," which you'll remember is a quote from Brainiac 5 to Saturn Girl in one of the stories. You can't go on that mission.
Yeah, exactly. And she was the team leader, right? Like that.
She was.
It's like, but yeah, I agree. Like it's a really weird issue to read back, especially. I mean, Legionnaires have done far worse and like with no punishment at all. And it is just clear self-defense. Like he never should have been punished for it. And
yeah. And I make this, I draw a line with this where you're in a situation where somebody's attacking you, you're defending yourself, and you hit the guy, and then he accidentally slips and falls and cracks his head open and dies that way. You didn't mean for that to happen, but that's what happened. I guess we call that manslaughter versus murder, right? So it's a matter of intent. And I clearly don't think that Tom Kallor, given the fact that he is so dedicated to the Legion and what it stands for, that he would ever consciously try to kill anybody. So take that, Brainy.
Yeah. Brainy's wrong for a 12th level intellect. So yeah.
But then we get him back.
Yeah.
Hurrah.
He comes back as Surprise.
Yes.
And Mysterious, which is more great Silver Age. I always wonder what it's like to do stuff in big metal, or no, it was lead costumes, right? So that Superboy couldn't see who was behind it. And it's like
no, Superboy knew and Supergirl knew because they're the way as usually happens with Saturn Girl. I'll speak up for them. Just don't look through the mask, and in fact, wasn't Ultra Boy wanting to look through with the penetrable vision? But
that's right.
He was punched by Invisible Kid. I think you referenced recently. But, I mean, what a weird. I mean, that was the end. Ian Nelson Bridwell just wanted to put absolutely everything in the story and undo everything. It was a weird 2 issues. I mean, I was glad to get Starboy back and to get Dreamgirl on the team, but the whole punishness of Surprise and Mysterious, it was just weird.
Yeah. And it's only 9 issues later when this story comes out with the Surprise and Mysterious after they'd kicked him off the team. So it's like, all right, come on. What are we doing here, guys?
I sometimes wonder as well is, we know that a lot of Silver Age stories, they had the cover first and then they went with, okay, what's the story second? And I think in both cases, they had the cover of a murderer legionnaire and then boom, okay, we have to make this work. And then the second one, who are these mystery legionnaires? And they had to figure that out afterwards. We talked about this as well. It's like, there's never as much forethought as we'd like to think. I think it was just the writer who said, hey, we should bring these 2 back. And or maybe they were getting letters and people were like, this isn't fair. Bring Starboy back.
Yeah,
like,
possibly. And they, and of course they went back to the nice trope well to get the, like you said, the mystery character back. Who is this? Which they've used several times prior. So yeah.
But I don't think if I'm remembering rightly from having reread it yesterday, but my memory's not what it was. It was just, you can come back on the team. It wasn't, Brainy was wrong or anything. It's just come back on the team.
Yeah.
Because Brainy's never wrong, no matter what happens, right? So
absolutely not.
No matter what. But I mean, it certainly becomes a very memorable, I guess, moment in Legion lore, right? So everybody knows who Surprise and Mysterious are. If you spent any time at all reading through the Legion and reading through the histories. It's it's one of those moments that's like, oh, that's kind of interesting, very Silver Agey, right? But it's fun.
Yeah, and then he kind of just moves back to the background again and doesn't really do much until we get Dave Cockrum. I mean, is that the next step we want to go to? And then he gets sort of two big moments with Dave Cockrum drawing him.
I think we should, because he's in the background doing stuff and he does stuff here and there, but he's not this kind of noticeable in your face kind of character.
Yeah, I think it's one of those as well. I mean, obviously when Shooter takes over, and I mean, this is true for every writer of the Legion, they have their favorites. And I don't think Shooter really knew what to do with him, and was more interested in writing Karate Kid in every issue, for example.
Did you ever read Jim Shooter's quote about what he considered to be very horrible?
Oh, yes. I have it right. I have it right here.
Go to it. James, would you like to share?
So Jim Shooter describes Starboy as slow, steady, faithful, honorable, reliable, loyal, and dumb. And I have a big problem with this quote, because I think just because you're all of those things in the first part of that quote doesn't make you dumb. I don't think he's dumb. I think he's stalwart. I think he's just very upstanding. And if that makes him dumb, so be it.
Well, I've got another version of that quote from one of the articles.
Are you talking about the sex one?
Yes, indeed.
Go for it, Mark.
Okay. A big fullback of the guy is slow, steady, honourable, reliable, loyal, thrifty, brave, clean and reverent, and dumb, and probably hung like a horse, which will be the deciding factor in Dreamgirls settling down with him in that isolated observatory. That was from Inslack, the Apple in 1976.
Yes, that's that is the full quote there. So thank you, Mark.
but I mean, if you look at those Jim Shooter quotes about the members, or that he was giving, everyone, he just seems obsessed with their sex lives.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. We've mentioned it before. Which one were we talking about, Jay? I think it might have been Saturn Girl we were talking about, or possibly Phantom Girl, one of them.
I swear every episode we talk about an individual Legionnaire, and as soon as somebody says, I have a Jim Shooter quote, I just go, oh God, what horrible thing is this going to be? And then it's always bad.
Yeah, wait till we get to Dream Girl.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this a few times, and it's always, I mean, what's really funny is like you read that and you sort of say like, okay, so he's basically just describing like, I mean, I'll just say like the athlete. But we'll forget about the sex stuff. And then you sort of see that's Jim Shooter's own issues, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Through on that.
For sure.
And if he couldn't be bothered when he was writing them, or didn't have the talent at that young age to, show us why they were together, show that he has charisma or sense of humor, because I don't think I ever saw him making jokes until one of the Spotlight issues in the 2000s.
Yeah.
And he made 2 jokes in one issue. But he must have had something. But I mean, the idea hung like a horse. I mean, no one had anything. And actually, I was thinking that was offensive. Then I remembered that there was a British Legion of Superheroes APA called APA 247, which later became an Urchon that I was a member of. And when we had collation parties putting the zines together, we did used to play occasionally a game called Pin the Tail on Starboy. Tail wasn't the word used, but someone came up with that. Probably because of that quote, but I never won.
I mean, I read this, I see the quote, and I'm like, what Shooter's doing here is basically describing a Boy Scout, somebody who's, I guess, in the 60s slang would be called a square, right? Just because, and I don't know, does he have a problem with him? I don't know. But, Starboy's the guy who is always there. Yeah, he's at your job. He's the guy who's always there, always does what he needs to do, never makes a fuss. He just does it. But he also doesn't get the rewards. He doesn't get the big, big parties for hitting his sales number by, 2,000% or whatever like that. But he's just the solid, reliable team member. And, sorry, Jim Shooter, I think that's fine.
I mean, a solid person, whether it's a man or woman, whatever, that's good, someone in your corner. And as I say, because the charisma or whatever doesn't come off the comics page. And it's so reductive, so insulting to Noura as well, that, the Dream Girl would only be interested in him if he had appendages of the size of Titan or something.
And to be honest, if that's the case, if that's all she's looking for, she'd be dating Chameleon Boy, right? So it's like you just minimize the character, or you just say this character isn't important instead of seeing the value. I mean, I thought it was a great point you just made where you said, like, he's got to have a reason why she dated him. Like, it's got to be personality or charisma or something. And I think bad writers always skip that part. Like, even, think of those movies where you've got a bad relationship and you go like, why is this woman staying with this guy? and the writers never show that the guy has any redeeming qualities. And it's like, well, there's got to be a reason why she's with him in the first place. And in this case, he's not a bad guy. There's got to be a reason she's with him aside from just his appendage. And even if they showed something like he dotes on her, like he gives her everything she could possibly want, or he's the one person who treats her with respect because everybody else just sees her as a dumb blonde. And I always thought there had to be more to him that way. He's got to see her for the sum of her parts. Although, and we'll get into this as we get into him in the 80s, there are moments where he's written as possibly the most selfish Legionnaire when it comes to his relationship. And again, like with every appearance, even Silver Age, and then when we get into the 70s and whatever, he's the guy who's there, throws himself into the action. He's got this really cool power set, and he's always helping his teammates. I kind of think, to go to a sports metaphor, and I'll go like, you know what, I'm going to be nice and I'm going to pick Scottish football and I won't pick American football. He's that defensive midfielder who never gets any attention and just solidly plays his position. He's not getting goals. He's not getting assists, but he's the reason why the team's winning. And that's who Starboy is. He's not jumping and shaking his fist after scoring a goal. He's the guy who's like, yeah, without him, we give up an extra 6 shots a game.
Yeah.
When you were saying that, Jay, I was thinking, I'm an Orioles fan. I'm sorry. And I was thinking, he's kind of like Cal Ripken Jr. was back in the day, right? Where he ended up having that massive record of the consecutive games played.
He was one of the best power hitting shortstops of all time. But I think his consistency is a really good comparison to Tom, is that he's out there every day. He's doing his job. Even if his back hurts or he's got a bruise, he's still out there playing. I think another way to look at him, if you're going to do a baseball metaphor, is he's like your number 4 starter. Like, he comes out, he's not your ace, he's not your best. Like, I can do sports metaphors all day if we really want to.
Can you do baseball?
Batball. Yeah, so he's the manager in Batball who keeps everybody calm.
That's a great segue. That's V4.
So actually, I do apologize, Jay, because it was probably me causing a diversion. But you did bring up the fact that Tom had 2 big moments under Cockrum.
Yes. So, by the way, diversions are this podcast.
Yeah,
so never apologize for going.
This is the Rabbit Hole Podcast, is our subtitle.
Yeah, we'll just pick a topic and go off for 20 minutes. Okay. So let's go, rather than talk about Batball, which is, where you're going to see me get a little angry. Let's go back to his 2 big moments when Dave Cockrum starts penciling him. And in both cases, I don't think that this was anybody other than Dave Cockrum doing this. So I'm going to just give Dave Cockrum credit for both. And the first one is obviously the costume, which is why I say it's like almost heresy to say that the Starfield costume isn't the best Starboy costume of all time, because they still use it and it's become like a plot point when we get into New 52 and yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, a dumb plot point, but it's a plot point. And also he gets like the V-neck on it, which you just didn't see in Superheroes as well, and I think looks horrible, but at least it stands out. Like but
you've got all the right opinions.
Thank you. I already know that, but thank you for confirming. Now I'm just going to be worse. Jim's going to be like, oh God. And then the second one is him showing up in Dreamgirl's bed, right? Like that one issue where he pops, and he's not even in the story.
Was that Dreamgirl's Living Nightmare?
Well,
yeah. So it's Superboy and the Legion, Superboy and the Legion, Super Bowl. Just think it's sports. Superboy and the Legion 201, Dreamgirl's Living Nightmare, and she wakes up from a nightmare. And if you look to the other side of the panel, there's a
tuft of hair. Yeah,
there's a tuft of hair sticking out there, and it looks remarkably like Tom's. And this is 1973.
Yes,
3
or 4.
And like you didn't. I mean, that didn't happen in comics, especially not married characters. Like I remember when they showed Nightwing and Starfire in bed together in the 80s, and everybody freaked out. Later. And this is a decade earlier. So I mean, you could say like these 2 gigantic moments that aren't even really story related, but he's got. And it's kind of sad that these are his only 2 moments, but it's.
Well, I'll go for a third, and that would be when eventually he gets the beard. That would be
right, and that we jump into the 80s. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's funny. That's good, because when you said Starboy had 2 big moments, and I brought you back to it, that was because I couldn't remember what they were. I was trying to think of 2 big story moments under Cockrum, but yeah, visually, absolutely. But I mean, as for the V-neck, it just seemed weird because you've created this, and it is an amazing costume, and it was so original. I mean, obviously Donald Troy and others have ripped it off since then, but bring this amazing costume with the turtleneck or whatever it was, and then just to cut it out for sexiness that you didn't need because it was just, what a stupid thing to do. The thing appeared in, was it one of the Treasury editions, and then about 5 or 6 years later in the comic.
So I don't know if it was sexiness as much as the artist didn't want to draw it when it was just a headshot. Because I'm assuming that's not an easy costume to draw. You've got to do all the little details of the stars, right? Like, I don't think it's a simple...
I'd imagine you do it all black and then sort of splotches of ink.
Yeah,
unless they had
yeah,
some
and
kind
then
of sort of lecture tone type sheet that you could... Then again, you'd have to cut it all out every time now. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of an easy, like Shadowlass's costume is nice and easy. You're drawing a bikini, whereas this one would be a little bit tougher. So I could see why they do that. And yeah, when we get into the 70s, like you were saying, you couldn't think of anything. He kind of just, again, like floats back into the background. He has one great moment in one of the greatest Legion stories of all time when he single-handedly defeats Mordru. But aside from that, I'm kind of blank.
Yeah.
Note heavy sarcasm on that one. Sorry, when he defeats Romdur, it was
Lord Romdur.
Right. But aside from that, like a lot of the 70s, he's just kind of there. And then it's not until Levitz and Giffen take over that he actually starts getting personality and he gets a new look. Like Jimmy mentioned the beard, which shows up in Legion Annual #1. And he's playing Dungeons and Dragons. And now he has a new friend in Sunboy, which I don't think we had ever seen before.
I don't think so.
And he starts to actually do stuff. So he becomes like blunt, like just, I'm going to say what I think. And they actually lean into, he's a former scientist. Like he grew up on a research station. He's not an idiot. He knows this stuff. Like I think of that one issue when they're flying around searching, we talked about this when they crash on the asteroid after, Chameleon Boy and Timberwolf and Shrinking Violet go to Kundia. And he's the one talking to Phantom Girl going like, yeah, there's no chance. Like, do you know how many stars there are? Like I've done this. Like this is worse than needle in a haystack. And she's just like, shut up. and you actually get a personality from him. Like he's not a dumb guy, but he's also kind of dumb when we're talking about talking to other people.
Yeah. And when it came to the plot line with, when you knew it was voted leader by the readers, so I had to write it into the comic, all the reactions you got from him were just, amusing. They seemed real. I mean, very spousy. I mean, no wonder they were sleeping together so many years ago. And of course, around about that time, also we had that appalling retcon that was, not retcon, story point that was immediately moped away, which was that, they were much older than they look because of the serum. Yeah. I mean, he basically, he was treated as if he was Darren from Bewitched, with the wife who was suddenly, much more powerful, the real go-getter, even though he was pretty impressive himself.
Well, the one thing that they never got into, which I kind of wish they had, is you have to have a certain level of self-confidence to date Dream Girl. Like you can't be a pushover. Like she's, because I mean, she's written as this, like this vivacious, like flirty, and he's got to just know in the back of his head, like she's coming home to me, like our relationship is tight. That takes this level of self-confidence that there's a bunch of Legionnaires that I don't think would have. And they never really got into this. When she becomes leader, he becomes a bit of a pouty, like, I miss the cuddles. I miss the like da-da-da. And you're just like, dude, like this isn't a great look for you. But especially like as the book is trying to get a little bit more, feminist is too strong of a word, but we're getting more and more strong females.
Yeah.
And then he comes across as kind of like this, a little bit anachronistic guy of like, no, I just want her for this and I don't want to share her. I think of that spotlight that they did on her or did on him, Legion 306.
Yep.
And yeah, the whole thing is him going like, I hope she doesn't win again. I hope she doesn't win again. And you're like, way to support your partner there, bud.
Well,
like that's
about that issue though, that is where we actually get the more refined origin story of Starboy, right? Because I think originally it was, flew through the comet, I have superpowers. But then we get the more nuanced, his parents, they were in an orbital observatory. He got imbued with these powers and he was kind of a lab rat for a while. And then that drove him to leave. And that's when he flew through the comet and got the weird powers. So it was nice to get a little bit more of a specific origin story for good old Tom.
Oh yeah, I think it's great that Levitz explained the 2-year gap.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was funny though, because I would file that under things that do not need to be explained. Because in those early issues, people wouldn't be seen apart from their headshot on the mission monitor board. I mean, like I think was his first actual visual appearance in the Adventure Comics was 310 or something. The Mr. Mixer's Pit like Mask Man story. He was on page 1 with it as a headshot. And I think he wasn't in the story. So I mean, it was interesting. It was funny. that they explained that, when he'd done that mission on the prototype Tackle Galtos, he had to bring the prison walls around on everybody to stop the prison riot. It crushed his bones. It was funny and it was clever. I don't think they needed it. But then again, if he's doing a spotlight issue, yeah, you probably need to make some stuff up.
Well, I thought more than they needed it, I thought it was a really good way to give him some depth, right? Like, cause he's always been a character that got ignored. There's really not a lot if you're writing we're going to do a spotlight on, I'm trying to think of a Silver Age character who showed up all the time, like a spotlight on
Lightning
Bouncing
Lad.
Boy. Like they kept showing, or Lightning Lad or whatever. They kept showing stuff like Bouncing Boy would get his powers and lose his powers and get his powers and lose his powers. And you could have some fun with it. Whereas with Starboy, he's kind of like a blank slate that they could just have some fun with. And I think one of the things I really loved about this is it was Levitz treating the source material with respect and treating it, as a fan, like, hey, here's stuff that we care about, but at the same time, not being a slave to it and instead saying, yeah, I'm going to go off on this and have a little fun and give us a different take. And I thought that was really good. And of course it was fun. Like it's, good classic art, Kurt Swan's on that, right? And, so it looks like Silver Age, and it was just it's one of, I think, Starboy's best issues.
Yeah.
To kind of retell it. And it's kind of funny, like him revealing himself to Wildfire, which I think is just this bizarre combination that they picked, and yet it works. And Wildfire's I don't even want to say calm, like Wildfire's hey dude, maybe support your, I think normal is maybe a good way
Rational?
of putting it. Yeah, rational.
Yeah.
That's the word. That's the word.
But Wildfire did grow so much in the Bronze Age, didn't he? As his relationship with Dawn's story,
Mm-hmm.
He went from being the obvious Marvel character that they've just imported into being, one of the most popular Legionnaires because of his characterization, because he was just such a solid, fantastic team member and leader.
Yeah, it's a really good elevation of Starboy. And then he just continues on, and he's constantly showing up. And again, we give Levitz credit for this all the time, is that everybody gets their due and everybody shows up, nobody disappears. And then you could say maybe the next big thing with Starboy, ironically enough, is when he has to leave. But it all builds up into, we've talked about this, the Universal Project, and I got it right this time.
I thought it was the Eclipso Project.
Exactly. And again, it shows his personality, like his home planet loses their planetary protector, who's Atmos, and they need one. So they call him up and they go, yeah, you got to quit the Legion and come home. Like, this is your job. And he does it. Right. And kind of without argument, he's just, no, my planet needs me. This is right. And it shows a side of his character. And even when he doesn't have to stay there, like when they resolve the storyline, he's like, no, I'm still here. Like, I can't go back to the Legion. And again, it shows that he's a character of responsibility and a character of I just say good, he'll make the tough decisions because it's the right thing to do, which is what you want out of a hero, I think.
Absolutely. But wasn't it fun when he got to punch down Atmos?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, now we get into 5 years later where he kind of just disappeared. Like, they don't use him for a while, which is good.
Long while.
And then when he finally shows up, it's balding, overweight. He's the manager of a bat ball team.
Oh my God, he's me.
Are you the manager of a bat ball team? He's married to the owner of the team, who also happens to be Noltorian. I'm going to mispronounce this. Yivya?
I thought I thought Eva. Maybe it said Eva.
Yeah, maybe that. Evia. Yeah.
Eva Val.
Yeah. Again, I mispronounce everything because to me, he's still Thom, and I've just been having to reprogram my brain and say Tom all the time. Yeah. Look, we talk about how 5 years later, I just feel didn't get a lot of these characters right. And this is another example. This is a guy who was too responsible. I don't see him not being the planetary protector of Xanthu or doing something more on his home planet. But yeah, so we get that, and we get one issue. He shows up, and then that's kind of it.
I've got to stand up for the art though, because I'm just double checking again because I read it yesterday. But he's not fat and he's not balding. He's looking pretty darn good, actually.
Sorry, I thought there was a big bald patch on the back of his head.
Maybe I've missed it. I don't know. You can't really see it anyway. But maybe there is one bit where he's got his hand on the back of his head.
So I could just be misremembering it, to be honest.
He's looking good, actually.
Okay.
Then
All
again,
right, I stand corrected.
The art style back then, people would be sort of, if it was a Giffen one, but which it wasn't, it was a bit strange. But yeah, I didn't like that issue because it's all sport. I didn't understand a word of it. It's the most boring issue in the history of the Legion, really. But excuse me, boys. But
no. I actually don't know. I'm trying to think if there's one that was, like that was worse, and it's up there. Like, and I say this as a baseball fan, and it's still like, okay, so it's bat ball. Like, what was the point of this? Like, that
Yeah.
was that was my problem with the story. Is like, what's the point?
Yeah, because I mean, I've got that on my notes. The point seemed to be that he wouldn't, even though it was because it was heavily implied at the start that he was going to cheat on his wife the next night with Noura, but then he didn't, and he wouldn't throw the game. So the only point seemed to be that he wouldn't cheat on Noura and he wouldn't throw the game, so he wasn't a cheat in either way. But he's Starboy, the Legion of Superhero. I mean, did anyone really think that was in his personality anyway?
Well, they did it to Colossal Boy.
Yeah, but it's just here with Tom and Mary Beamon just wanting to write a sports issue, and I don't know. It was such a dirge to get
I
through.
honestly, I think by this point in 5 years later, they were getting so many letters from people going, what happened to this character? Where's this character? And I say this knowing nothing about what the beer bombs were thinking. So this is speculation on my part.
Yeah.
Is I think they were just like, everybody's bugging us about Starboy. Let's just give him an issue. Everybody's bugging us about this character. Let's just give him an issue. Let's just get it over with. And you can tell they didn't. You can tell they didn't want to do it. Like, you can tell this wasn't a character they wanted to, because again, like, they're such big Silver Age fans, and Starboy's not a Silver Age, not an important Silver Age character. And so did they kill him off in SW6? Was he one of the, I'm blanking on that one. Sorry.
Yeah, me too.
I think, I don't know if they killed him off or he just wasn't part of the clone group, but because he appears at the end, during End of an Era, because he wasn't there before. And he appears with Dream Girl and Bouncing Boy. So,
yeah. It's funny though, Jay, the way you're saying that he wasn't. They were Silver Age fans, and he wasn't one of the big ones. But to my mind, because I grew up reading awful lot of the Silver Age comics that I'd inherited, like in the early 70s. And to me, even though he's not one of the founders, in my mind, he's a foundational member because even though he didn't always get a starring part, I knew he was always with the Legion, and I'd always in the group shots he'd be there. And, I mean, to me, there should always be a Starboy in the Legion of Superheroes.
I agree. So we talked about the shooter quote earlier. We also had a quote from the Beer Bombs. They also did kind of a parallel one of these here as well. So I'm going to read this one. This is the full quote here. Tom and Mary say, maybe not as bright or as deep as most of his teammates, but Tom is a good man who really believes in the Legion way. And he's determined and earnest enough to make it work. Initially, he and Dream Girl were a good match, but as Noura matured, she came to overshadow him in virtually all areas except simple strength of character, and that's left a gap in Noura's life since they split. And so there's a lot in there. It is kind of more about Dream Girl in a lot of ways with that quote. But to the point of the 5 years later character, what I got out of it, and listening to you guys talk, what I got out of it is that the Beer Bombs wrote a Starboy, a Tom Kallor who just settled for what he got. Right? He didn't really challenge his life to really reach for the golden ring. He just said, "Okay, this is it. I'm done. I'm going to get what I get and not get upset."
My argument against that would be he's the manager of the best bat-ball team in the galaxy. That's reaching for the golden ring. Like, that's not settling.
He's not a legionnaire, right? He's not a hero.
True. But to me, settling would have been he's just a planetary protector for the rest of his life. Like, he just stays in that one spot. I get your point. Like, I get what you're saying. I think it was more he could never be what he was in the past. So he just picked another Naltorian, which is not really great, and then just to replace Noura.
Right.
And just followed that path instead.
If any Legionnaire is going to be managing a team, obviously it should be Cosmic Boy, the former professional Magna Ball athlete.
Right.
But B, that quote from Tom and Mary Beable, I think was he say it was Mary? But the stuff that she's saying in there isn't really, apart from the fact he was didn't want him to be leader. All that stuff about being overshadowed and she matured and moved on, blah blah. That wasn't in the comics. It's just, I mean, it seems like an awful lot of the things that I enjoyed the run. Huge respect for Tom and Mary Beerbaum as writers, but it seems like a lot of the things that they put in the story were, or that they'd refer to or have in their minds, were things that were from the Interlac and Claudney fan fiction theories, stories, and things. And to me, if it's not canon, don't be sort of writing things based on that as their character when that wasn't their character at that point. Establish that that's their character, show us a bit of the relationship, give us flashbacks, but don't just say she outgrew and blah blah blah, because to me it didn't feel right. It just was out of nowhere.
Yeah, and that we'll eventually have a dedicated series of 5 years later episodes. That's one of the challenges of having a time jump, is that you have to explain at some level what's been going on in those 5 years at some point. I mean, obviously you can have that time jump and get going like they did, and it was great. But eventually you have to say, okay, why isn't Wildfire here? Why isn't Starboy here? Where is Dream Girl? All those things. You have to answer those at some point if you're writing a Legion.
Yeah, and I think to a certain degree as well, if you're going to do that jump, you have to stay true to the characters. Like, you can make changes, but essentially they are who they are at their center, right? We hear the sort of the same descriptions, right? That he's not the smartest Legionnaire, nobody's going to argue that, but he's not he's not a dummy. He's somebody you can rely on, and somebody who's going to make steadfast is a great word. And again, maybe this issue was them saying, like, look, he's still honorable, he's still honest, he's still not going to do the wrong thing no matter whatever situation he's in. Maybe that was enough. Maybe they thought that was enough of a plot point. But I agree with you, like Mart, the whole issue it's a whole lot of nothing, and it's kind of just a waste of his appearance. I mean, if you're going to have Starboy, let him use a power, let him do something, let him be active. Like when we get into 5 years later, and when we do these episodes later on down our schedule, is like, how old are they? Because in this issue, Starboy's written like he's like 50, like he's just like, and you kind of read that and go like, okay, these guys are all in their 30s,
yeah,
40s.
Like all the team is supposed to be in their mid to late 30s, basically.
Yeah, and he's written like a guy who's way past that. He's like, all right, and you're just like, what happened to him? And that, I think, is maybe where the boring comes from. The other one as well, and I think this is something that we've talked about too when we talk about the Legion, is, it's 1,000 years in the future. Like, why are we still tied to sort of these boring male-female roles of our time? Like, why couldn't Starboy be incredibly cool with what his girlfriend's doing? Why does he have to be upset that she's outgrown him? It seems like he doesn't want her to succeed. Why couldn't they have written him as the opposite? Because I think his character would have been more like that. And they didn't break up because he had a problem with her. They broke up because he had to leave, right? And she couldn't stay with him. So it wasn't it wasn't her outgrowing him. It was him going, I got to go be responsible. And she couldn't handle that. Yeah, it was just a weird take. I mean, it's nowhere near the level of some of the other character assassination that happened in 5 years later.
Yeah.
Which we will also talk about in a future episode.
And that's a great point. And we'll probably revisit the subject when we talk about Dream Girl. But when we read what the Beer Bombs wrote about Starboy, and the fact that they're mentioning, obviously they're saying he went back to Xanthu because he has to be responsible and do what he needs to do. But it also says that Dream Girl finds that there's a missing part of her in life. When during the 5-year gap, why didn't she just go back to him? And if they have this great relationship, I mean, that'd be the perfect opportunity for that to happen. So anyway,
yeah. I could talk about the insanity of Dream Girl's characterization in 5 years later for a long time, and we will later on.
I cannot wait.
I'm just building anticipation to future episodes. I think we can jump to reboot, right? Let's get off of this topic. Reboot Starboy, and Jim, please. Like, reboot is your world, so let us know about Tom and Reboot.
So in the Reboot, it's a very similar kind of strategy here, but they play it a little bit differently. So he is the Xanthu rep for the Legion, but he's not the first one, because the original Kid Quantum was the first one who was drafted by the Legion, or by the UP, to be on the Legion. And then, of course, as I think we've talked about this, he dies on one of their first missions. And so they need a replacement, and that replacement is Starboy. And then when he does show up, they really parallel the Silver Age origin, because he shows up, he couldn't get there on time because he had an accident en route, and he shows up and he has these big casts on his arms. And then they also go through the whole thing. He makes things heavier, but then he also has a period where his powers kind of go haywire, and he has various Superboy powers all over the place. And he's pretty stalwart. Again, he's the same kind of personality. I think they got his core personality correct in the Reboot. And, I'd say he's very steadfast, although he is a little bit more impulsive than he was shown in the prior incantations, into the prior versions of the Legion. But he's always somebody who's trying to always do the right thing, even though he might have unintended consequences for doing so. And then when Nora eventually does show up, they become an item, and they stay together through the rest of it. Eventually, they do end up telling his full origin story, and it's very similar to the original Silver Age. But in this case, when he had that accident, they were feeding him some kind of space whale slurry, which is kind of strange. And it almost sounds like a Ultra Boy origin in some ways.
So that's actually in the story there. You know, they say it was a space whale, and the story's being narrated, I think, to a bunch of little kids, and
Yes. Yes.
Joe Nars there, and he says, you know, maybe it was the space, maybe it was the space whale that gave me my powers, and I mean, it's weird. It's like, yeah, it's like as if they suddenly thought we have to have a reason as to why he might have got Superboy type powers. Oh, Ultra Boy got Superboy type powers. Feed him space whale blubber. That was just bizarre.
Strange. I know. It was very strange.
Yeah.
The Legends of the Legion series has some good moments in it for sure. It's a lot of good art from Todd Nauck. That is probably the best part of it. But yeah, that was a weird little series, and that was a very strange issue, very specifically. But I think where things get really interesting is this is the time when you have a big resurgence of the Starman book in DC, and you have Kingdom Come, and you have all these things going on outside of Legion. This is really where a lot of that stuff starts, because the Tom Kallor of the reboot shows up in the Jack Knight Starman series very mysteriously. And then we see him in other variations from that moment on, which is pretty fascinating. We do see that, I think, in Legion Worlds, where Nura has a vision of Tom's death, where there's a, R.I.P. Tom statue somewhere. And my understanding or my thought about this was that this was going to be the way that they were going to get him into the past. Were they to keep with this continuity, right? So something happens, Starboy's gone, everybody thinks he's dead, but he's actually in the DCU present.
But a Tinia type thing.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
that's my assumption anyway. I'm just kind of making things up on the fly on that one. That's just what it seemed like.
When he shows up in Starman 50, it's funny because there his powers are listed as gravity, invulnerability, super strength, and flight. I mean, obviously flight ring, but super strength and invulnerability. I don't know wonder whether James Robinson had just been confused by his first ever appearance, or what, or heaven knows, or just thinking of different applications of the power.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I took it.
Well, the one thing I always go with Starman is there's a period of Starman where Robinson is off writing for Hollywood, and you can tell like his attention to the book isn't where it was the year earlier. Like and I say this as somebody who loves the series and considers it one of the best of the 90s. And this is 150. It's co-written by Robinson and David Goyer. And so, yeah, I think they were, it was probably one they probably didn't know what the continuity was, and they just said, hey, what's going on in the Legion? And they said, this is what the costume looks like, and they threw it in. I just know as a Starman fan, like him showing up in Starman 50 was a really big deal because, oh wow, the Legion is in like a book that, because at the time Starman's going to all of these different planets, meeting all the different Starmen of DC history, right? So they meet the 70s Starman from Adventures Comics, and they meet and then when they meet Starboy, it was just, wow, this is a big thing. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, Jim, and then continuity starts to kind of fly all over the place.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've got the Legion, which is getting closer and closer to getting canceled or rebooted or whatever you want to call it. Like, DNA is about to take over. And I was going to say, one of the comments I wanted to make is I think Starboy was actually made out really well in the reboot. I thought the writers handled him really well. They did a really good job on the character. You knew who he was, mistakes and all, and they gave him some flaws, and they made him a teenager who was out of control. His powers were out of control, and it was a really compelling read. And then I think with Legion Worlds, which you called out, I really liked that. I know a lot of people either didn't like the art or didn't like the story or whatever. I thought him fighting for his planet.
Yeah. That's definitely one of the best stories of that.
I've got that as my best Starboy issue ever. I mean, because you got the displays of the power, crushing the robots into shields, throwing a generator into Earth's core, crushing walls into diamonds. He's an amazing leader. Numa thinks he's a portable black hole. It's just fantastic. It's just,
really cool.
Really, total powerhouse.
Yeah,
personality and powers.
Yeah. And and to your point about the continuity stuff, Jay, I think this is where I think I'm putting this together in my head with regards to Starboy appearing in the past. So Kingdom Come comes out in 1996. And in Kingdom Come, they very specifically say, yes, that Starman is actually Tom Kallor from the 30th century. Fine. Great. So, and of course, at this point in time, the reboot continuity was in full swing. And it stays that way until about 2005. And of course, so Starboy 50 or Starman 50, the years we're just talking about, is in 1999. Then Legion Worlds, I think, is 2000, 2001, something like that, where that's where Nura has that vision. And so I'm just trying to put pieces together here. And I'm just thinking that had that continuity remained in place, that was what they were going to do. And then, of course, then we switch over to the 3-boot in 2005. And then simultaneously the retro boot and so it gets really weird at that point in time. But yeah, so I guess this is probably as good time as any to go into the 3-boot and beyond.
Yeah. But of course, the Kingdom Come originally it was an Elseworlds. So they didn't have to plug any of that into the Lightning Saga business. But yeah, I'll let you get into that.
Yep.
It was just great, like reading Kingdom Come and going, hey, there's a Legionnaire in here when they didn't need to be. And it was like, yeah. And it was just Mark Waid saying like, yeah, the Legion is part of whatever DC worlds we want to talk about. And you're like, yes, okay, cool. It's just always that nice surprise for me when, they actually use the Legion in some of this stuff and they use it well. And it was, I mean, the fact that it was Starboy was very much a surprise, but it was a good choice. Yeah. Let's move to 3-boot. And this one's pretty quick because he doesn't do a lot.
Barely there.
Yeah. He's Cosmic Boy's buddy. And he's black instead of being a white guy. And
it was brilliant. I love this design.
It's a brilliant design.
Fantastic look.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that's why they used it in the animated series. Like, it's still a great look. It's a great costume. Barry Kitson designed it. I actually kind of wouldn't. I mean, we'll talk about this later. I wouldn't have a problem if this is how Starboy looked moving forward. They just said, we're just going to keep with this look. I think he got one or two good moments where, like, I mean, there's the one where Brainiac 5 is like, do you two not know you have the best powers in the universe?
Yeah.
When he's talking to Light Lass and Starboy, like, you literally control gravity. Like, that's impossible. I can't figure this out. But yeah, I mean, one of the problems with 3-boot is, of course, it becomes the Cosmic Boy Brainiac 5 show and everybody else gets punted down the order. And unfortunately, he didn't get to do a lot.
Yeah. And that's the thing. When I was reading this and reading some of the accounts that he's Cosmic Boy's buddy, I just, that's one of those things that didn't really stand out to me. Right. I mean, he did some stuff for him for sure, just like Triplicate Girl did, but I didn't get the sense that, they were good hangout pals or anything like that,
No, I think it was just they needed the two teams, right?
Yeah.
Like, who's on Cosmic Boy's side, but we're not. We don't need to show if this makes any sense, and then who's against them. It was more just he was a great visual for the series, and that was. Yeah, that's kind of
the only other thing I remember about that version of the character is that he had some kind of a sugar intolerance due to coming from Xanthu, because Sunboy's mom was handing out cookies and they're like, oh, you can't have this one instead. That's like the only other thing I remember.
Well, I don't even remember that. I mean, I read every issue. I mean, I'm like Supergirl. It's as if it was a whole dream. Can't remember a great deal about the Dream Girl at one point died and then came back as Dream Boy. Starboy got that fantastic cover, and I thought at least that would have a scene spotlighting him. I don't think he was in the issue.
Yeah, nope, not at all.
It was the 3-boot's one of those reads that it just feels like it's a lot of empty calories at this point. Like, it looks great, the visuals are amazing, and not a lot sticks with you. Like,
part of the reason of that is because in the middle of this Legion run of around 2007 timeframe, DC decides to bring back the original Legion as a separate story. Oh, and that was completely clear as mud.
And then we get OG Tom with the beard back in the pages of JSA. And at the time, JSA was like DC's third or fourth best-selling book. And it's revealed he's got schizophrenia. So he kind of becomes, I tried to describe this as, like in old Shakespearean tales, there's always the fool, the character who says like silly things, but then is always speaking the truth or always knows what's actually going on. And I got the sense that that's what they were trying to do with him, as like, he's from the future, so he actually knows what's happening, but we're going to use the schizophrenia as a joke, which was just a bad choice
and in the story itself, they had the team, didn't they find out that he was in an asylum? They rescued him from the asylum, but he was in no way fit to be on a team, the poor guy. And it's just very weird.
Very weird, yes. Absolutely. Although it sure was pretty to read. The Lightning Saga story, which I think was something, Jay, we should probably put on the list of something we want to cover as a whole episode. It was defining, and we'll probably talk about this more in other settings as well. I very much liked reading the Lightning Saga issues more than I liked reading the 3-boot at the time. Just because it was a Legion I was more comfortable reading, honestly.
I mean, all this thing about in the new Krypton with The Legionnaires having identities, secret identities suddenly because it was part of a mission. They all had a little job. They'd forgotten who they were. Tellus is hanging around outside Smallville. Element Lads, Clark Kent's teacher, or Clark Kent, Connell's teacher. And it just didn't seem to hang together at all, the whole thing. And when Jeff Johns, at one point, he says, I think that Tom had schizophrenia all his life, but he'd always been on drugs. Then later on, I think in the Legion book, Paul Levitt or someone says it was completely a result of Brainiac 5 sending him back in time with the multiversal suit. Know what you're doing, guys. Because I didn't.
So I will say this, right? So I did a reread of the Lightning Saga a little while ago, and yeah, the plot's dumb. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But it's again, pretty pictures. Like, it looks great. There's some great individual moments. There's some moments that like, it does elevate the Legion in a way that we haven't seen in a long, long time. I mean, the one scene that always stands out is, Batman finding out that Superman thinks Karate Kid is a better fighter than Batman. And you're like, oh, okay, like, we're actually getting some real respect for this team. But yeah, like, every plot choice they make, like you mentioned, like, Starboy's costume gets tied to the multiverse so he can jump back and forth or whatever by Brainiac 5. And then, yeah, the whole schizophrenia plot line, when we get into Final Crisis, Legion of Three Worlds, and Starboy is digging up graves to get the DNA so they can bring which Superboy? Connor? Yeah, Connor.
Yeah, Connor.
Back to life 1,000 years in the future. Like, it's just, it's all fan servicey, and it's all, we have this goal that we're trying to achieve, and we don't care if it makes sense to get to that goal. But having said all of that, they're still more enjoyable reads than 3-Boot.
Yes.
Because 3-Boot is just, especially by this point in time, like, the creative team's pissed because they've been, essentially, DC has said, we don't care about your version of the Legion anymore. We're going to go with OG. And then they start getting replaced, and then sales just start
tanking,
like, dropping.
But as a result of the Lightning Saga, Tom Kallor stays in the 20th century, and he's part of the JSA book.
Yeah.
And this is where we start linking back this version back to Kingdom Come as well.
Yeah, but whenever they have a Legion member in the 20th century for an extended period, whether it's the Legion Lost People or Karate Kid or Starman, Starboy, I can't relax with them on a team because I'm just waiting for them to go back. Like, even Phantom Girl, Apparition.
Yeah.
Because they belong with the Legion.
And the other one that always gets me is, like, if you're from 1,000 years in the future and you're back on a super team, like, why would you get connected to anybody? Like, why would you want to because you're just like, I'm just going to go home at some point, and, like, this doesn't matter, or, yeah, don't worry about this fight. I know we're going to win, or, like, I know the Earth's going to be fine. Like, that was the one thing that caught me with, like, Final Night, right? Like, when the Sun Eater is about to destroy the Earth and you've got the Legion back, and they're like, yeah, we know you're going to win because we're from the future.
Exactly.
Like, we know the sun's not going to get destroyed. So
no, for sure.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. But I will say this, like, the one good part about this is, we talk about elevating Starboy and elevating the Legion, and that's kind of what this does. Like, for all the failures of this, they're putting the Legion into two of DC's most popular comics, and they're making them important, right? They're saying, like, look, Starboy or Starman, because I think he's Starman when he's in
you'd be
JSA,
Starman at that point, yeah.
Right? Like, he's an important member, and these powers are handled well, and it's not done as a joke. Like, it's done to make, to make him an integral part of the team and to play a role. Do you agree with the choices they made? Nope. But, like, at least he's there.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just ironic that the most depth that Tom Kallor's character gets in his history is in the JSA book and not really in the Legion title, right? It's just very ironic, I thought.
Yeah, and it's because they throw at everything that had happened to him in the past. They just went, like, we're going to do our own character, and here's his mental health issues, and we're going to forget everything aside from his obsession with Dream Girl, which I think stayed. That was the one thing that stayed from everything else. But I think of, like, when the Legion takes over the backups in Adventure, right? Like, when they're doing those. And yeah, I just remember that scene where he's in the bowling alley, and it's, he's like, I'm going to take over this bowling ball and I'm going to shoot it out of the wall. And you're like, is this comedy? Like, what are we doing with this? But at least he's in, like, at the time when Adventure got relaunched, and it's Johns and Manipul handling the young Connor Kent stories. Like, it's selling. Like, people are, eyes are on the Legion. I just don't know if it was I don't know what the audience would think after reading.
So let me ask you guys a question here. So So, and Mark, you mentioned this before, right? Where, they went to get Connor's body, regenerate him for 1,000 years. And eventually this comes to fruition in the Legion of Three Worlds story. Do you think that they were seeding that stuff together? Was that all part of a plan that they had already kind of talked about? Because it is all Jeff Johns, right?
It is all Jeff Johns, but even reading it at the time, it didn't really seem to hang together. And there's this idea, who are they going to bring back? It's going to be so important. It's going to be so important. And then it seems to be like it's going to be Connor, and then I think it turned out to be Impulse. Both of whose characters I like. No, I mean, even now, I didn't have time to have a reread of the whole saga in order. I just kept
Yeah.
dipping in to find the Starboy bit. But even at the time, it seemed like it was like things that were happening in adventure comics didn't necessarily match up to things that happened in adventure comics or the JSA. I mean, in my mind, it seemed like Jeff Johns had put Starman in the JSA only because of the Kingdom Come connection, and then they started doing this convoluted storyline involving the Lightning Saga and dead Legionnaires. And no, I know it's revered, and I know you had this lovely George Perez art on the three issues or 5 issues Legion of
Yeah, 5.
three worlds, etc. But to me, that period was just a bit of a mess, and I didn't enjoy the way they just like blankly said, "Oh, he's a schizophrenic." It's like, well, maybe he had a schizophrenic illness. What was it? What's going on? Just like he's just coming out with these lines and things.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt uncomfortable with the whole sort of the mental illness as a useful plot point.
Yeah. Well, I'll also side with you with regards to Legion of Three Worlds, and we'll not get too deep into it right now. But yeah, I found the story a little bit on the wanting side, although the art was lovely. But, yeah,
They always love you again. Great character moments as the various Legionnaires meet each other. But I don't know. I tell you what's a blank spot for me though. I've only seen about one episode of the Legion of Superheroes cartoon on the TV. You say so. It's just the three-boot design, which sounds great. So does the character get much play in that?
No.
There you go.
But he does get lines of dialogue.
He does, yeah.
Like he does get to speak, which is better than a lot of other Legionnaires on that series. Exactly. But no, he's actually used and it looks great. Like it's a great, the design looks great in the animated series. But yeah, he's not one of the integral members of the team. It tends to focus around like 5 of them each season, and he's not one of those 5 on either season.
Yeah. So that's a shame. I have to have a look.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry, go back to the JSA Starman type as well. They seem so married to that mask from Kingdom Come. I mean, even when it was revealed, that he got his mind back, and he was back in the Legion of Superheroes, I think, being written by Levitz again, and they were trying to sort of de-multiverse map him as goodness knows. They still had half the mask on his head the whole time. It was just weird.
Yeah. Odd choices.
It seems like a lot of DC decisions that were made at that time, especially by Johns and is it Dan Didio or Didio? Yeah. I'd never get it right. Was all about bringing back their childhood. Like, I want my Legion back, or I want my Flash back, or I want so all of these choices were made. And then it was, how do we fix what we think are the mistakes of the creative teams before us? So that's my thought on Legion of Three Worlds, is Legion of Three Worlds isn't actually a Legion story. It's how do we fix the Titans? And I think that's kind of like, that's one of the big flaws of the book, is it's like, can we let the Legion be the stars of like
the Legion are the guest of their own story? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Part of it, I think, is that we love Kingdom Come, so we want this to come true, but also we want our Legion back. We want the characters we grew up with. I think one of DC's biggest problems for a lot of their publishing is that nostalgia tends to rule. Instead of pushing forward, they're always constantly looking back.
But it was so hypocritical of Jeff Johns. I mean, given the way that when he took over the Titans, he sort of completely took out everything that was unique about Impulse and just, made him really, really dull. He completely changed, Connell and making him this Connor Kent character who looked nothing like him. Suddenly he's half Lex Luthor, etc. It's just, if you want to be wedded to the past, don't kill other people's. I'm with you. I like the forward momentum. You can always have flashback stories. If characters have been taken on for a few years in a certain direction and we've seen them progress and develop and get to a certain point, don't just suddenly, snap your fingers and take them right back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, do either of you know, because my memories of the JSA stuff is really, really vague. Did they ever explain why he couldn't be treated in the 21st century for
They
his
just said the medication wasn't good enough. That was it, wasn't it,
right.
James?
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. It was very similar.
Yeah.
It was almost verbatim what they did in the movie that we talked about last time.
That's what I thought. So
Yep.
it was just because every time I read that, I'm like, don't we have treatment for schizophrenia? Like, don't we have?
It was
Yeah.
space
I don't know if it was because
schizophrenia.
he was Xanthuan or
Yeah.
what.
Yeah,
They
it's
never really
cosmic
got to that level.
schizophrenia.
Yeah.
No, it's one of those things where, again, I'm always of two minds of this, because on the one hand, like, it's awesome to see him there, and it's awesome that he's getting elevated, and it's awesome that they think he's this important, because most Legion creators don't. But then it's what they do with him.
Yeah, it's not him. Tom's not really there because his personality's not there. His mind's not there. His memory's not there.
But ironically enough, if you're looking for Starboy stories to read, these aren't bad choices just to kind of have some Starboy material. I mean, they're not the best, but they're better than anything that happened in the 70s.
Yeah.
Is that
But
a safe statement?
I would certainly say to harp back on about it again, I would say if you want to read one Starboy story that shows his potential, Legion Worlds 4. And it's on the DC app.
Yep. Heartily agree.
Yep.
Heartily agree.
Yep. You're jumping ahead to our to one of our next categories. Was there anything about Starboy for Bendis boot that we wanted to talk about?
Well,
We normally like to
probably
get
talk about New 52 first.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, 'cause
well,
he
he's
isn't
just
there.
in a wheelchair. Well,
Yeah,
sorry.
he's in a wheelchair,
Floating
but he does go out and rescues.
My girl.
Yeah, Dream Girl from the Dominators, and then he resigns because he's all pissed off about it, and then they crush a building on him.
Yep.
Well, it was reported that he was crushed. You know, we never.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know.
Nora then says, he's gone," or something like that. So Nora basically confirms that he's gone.
One day, please do a special episode on that final Paul Levitt storyline, because I don't know whether it was just all Giffen's influence or what the hell it was. I mean, please, if you have a guest for Phantom Girl episode and they drop out, grab me. We'll have words about that.
Oh yes, the runaway strategy.
I'm slowly working through those issues on my weekly column. No. And I'm like, every single comment is just like, this is just going to get worse and worse and worse. And I'm like,
it's true.
And then the worst part is there's no saving grace. Like after it's almost right into the Bendis boot. And I'm like, how many months of horror have I signed up for here? As I'm just doing
it's some boy with no head.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's weird choices back in there. That is for sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I didn't even bother looking at that. I apologize. I flunked this out.
Well, that's okay.
I could not face looking at the Bendis books again.
We rarely talk about the Bendis stuff aside from, hey, the art looked good. Like that's literally all. That's normally our comments when we get to these characters. Like, hey, we liked Ryan Sook's artwork.
I will say that the Ryan Sook design for that incarnation of Starboy is probably the most visually interesting.
Oh, it's incredible! Really amazing work.
I mean, it's just wildly cool.
If only it had a story.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how any regular artist could actually draw that on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel so sad that it wasn't a success after all the work he put into it. But
yeah,
I mean, again, this is just Brian Bender's full stop. Editors just seem to be so in awe of him. Also, I mean, he seems like a nice fella. I'm sure that he would take it if editors would edit him a bit. You know?
Yeah. I agree. I don't disagree with anything you're saying there.
But couldn't you say that? I mean, I've sort of thought that's the exact same problem with the Levitz run. Like, if an editor had said, hey, this doesn't make any sense, and then...
You mean on the New 52 side? On the New 52 side.
Yeah, like the New 52 and the Retro Boot, like when he was doing Adventure, like all of those, you just like, where's the editor on this? Like, what's going on? But I get the sense, and we've talked about this on this podcast a lot, like the role of editors or how important an editor is. And like you can see, like if you read Powers, where he doesn't have an editor, and Bendis, the stories just kind of meander and go on. But if you're reading Powers, that's what you're expecting. Like you know that this is what the book is. Yeah. If I'm reading the Legion of Superheroes, that's not what I want. Like I don't want Powers and in the Legion. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. And I think you're right. I think in a lot of these cases, the editors either don't want to tell them to redo it, or again, maybe Bendis just had too much power. I don't know what the contracts look like. Do they have a contract where they say like, nope, I do the story that I want, and you're just here to make sure that the art and the pages come together? Like, I don't know the answer to that.
It could be, but I mean, I just want some editor to get Brian Bendis to do a proper ending of a story.
So maybe that's at some point we will talk about Justice League versus the Legion, and I'll probably put my head through a wall.
So That's the episode where we definitely need an alcohol sponsor.
Yeah.
So this
100%.
episode is sponsored by it's like,
Sponsored by Moonshine.
Yeah.
Wiping your brain cells out since the beginning of time.
let's go to the first thought of Tom's best issues, like if you're going to read it. And you both have mentioned it. Legion Worlds #4. I heartily agree. I think that's one of his best appearances. I will even go further on that. Like when they go back to it in the Legion and they're still fighting, I still wished they had done an Excess Starboy romance based on the two of them being stuck on that planet together. I thought that would have been a really, really cool triangle.
No, I could see it, but the way the Durex in that issue, she looked like a tiny child.
But they're all children. Like they were all teenagers at that point.
No, but compared to anybody else, she looked like a tween or something.
Yeah. I think that's just the art choice, right?
Yeah.
But I just thought it was like one of those things they could have had a lot of fun of. Like we both thought we were going to die. We started this relationship basically saying this is going to be the last time we're going to be with somebody. And then they both live and they've got to deal with the fallout. I just thought, again, it's some of the best writing for Starboy. The other one I always go with is, of course, the Legion of Superheroes Volume 2, 306. Like his rewritten origin story, I think is great for like the flaws in his character that it shows. And it does. Like he's not a perfect person in this issue, which is, I think, is always nice to see. Like I don't want everybody to be perfect, right? So that's a good one.
Apart from the Legion Worlds, well, I really like in the Legionnaire Who Killed in Adventure Comics 342, at the ending when he's kicked out of the Legion, he shows such grace, you know. But it's not like there's no like, oh no, or I'm going to become a villain. It's like, yes, I'll come with you, and you as the lead to the substitute heroes. We can do a good job there, and I can still be with you, and he can still help the Legion out sometimes. And I thought that was just really, really nice. Good piece of character work.
He takes his medicine basically, even though he doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
So mine isn't going to be a specific issue or anything like that, but it's going to be a series of issues. And I'm talking about there's a span of issues in the reboot from it's just after the Daxamite War and up until the Emerald Vi story. Because you have this really interesting interplay between him and Jim Allen, where Tom basically looks up to Jim as kind of a mentor. Jim can't stand him.
Yeah.
And they have this clash, and it's just wonderful to see on the page. He's trying to chase somebody down. He accidentally destroys part of the Legion headquarters, and then they end up fighting, and it makes it even worse. It's just this really good interplay. And then when Leviathan finally does die, you can tell it has an effect on him. And he's like, I want to be able to live up to the kind of person that he would have expected me.
Yeah, because isn't it one of the female Legionnaires who's saying, you've really changed. I like the new you're harder and more decisive. And he's saying, well, he is trying to live up to Leviathan.
Yeah. So that's my
a good call. Yep, I like that. Okay, worst appearances for Starboy.
Okay, well I'll go first with this one. And for me, it's basically when he was kind of being all whiny about Nura being elected leader and spending less time with him. That's my vote.
All right, Mart?
I don't really have one. I just think I would like to have seen him more of him all the way down the line. Although, as I say, in my mind, I think he's in the Legion stories a lot more than he was. But no, I'm always pleased to see him. He's never been written as badly as say a Phantom Girl in a certain story, or he's never come across as where Shadowlass when she was having her bitchy years, which were entertaining. So I don't really have a terrible Tom moment.
See, I don't think he's bad, but I think he's been stuck in bad stories, right? So like his first appearance is just so painful to read. Like Adventure 282, it is like Lana Lang is psychotic in this issue. And it's really hard to read because she comes like you literally read it and go, why is Superboy spending 30 seconds with her?
Yeah, exactly.
She blackmails Starboy. Like, if you don't pretend to be my boyfriend, I'm going to reveal your secret identity to the bad guys. I think as well, the other one that I'm not a big, aside from the Batball one that doesn't work. He's also, I mentioned it before. He's in the Romdor story, which is one of the worst Legion stories. You're very confused on this one.
I still will be the one person that defends that story because it's fun.
Didn't he beat him in the end? Didn't you say that? He beat Lord
No. He by himself, he defeats Mordru.
That's pretty impressive.
No, but it's just a horrible story. And horrible Steve Ditko art, and it's just Like, wow. But then again, look, I defend the Reflecto saga, so Jim,
What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
I
we're both
enjoyed
on
it.
we're both on the we'll both be on our islands.
Exactly.
I'm on
Exactly. Be my epitaph. I like
we've
the
talked about
Rom
it. We've
stories.
talked about it a lot. Which characters are sort of most closely connected to Starboy? And obviously, Dream Girl is the one
Yes.
that he's been connected to the most relationship wise. We did mention he's married and 5 years later, but that's like one issue, so it doesn't really
Forget
happen.
that.
Yeah, who else would you sort of say is Starboy's buddy or Starboy's the person he spends the most time with?
Well, if he's playing that game with Sunboy a lot, the game that his father taught him, we later found out, then, Sunboy, who else was a Comedian Boy was in that game a lot as well. The Sword Hammer, whatever it was called.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Actually, it's named in one of the issues as, I think, Sword Hammer or something like that.
Okay, because I
mean,
always just thought
it
it
is
was
Dungeons and Dragons, but it's got its own name later on. But
Yeah, I didn't know
okay,
they used something else. Yeah.
because they probably were going to get sued if they just said Dungeons and Dragons.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah,
I
it
think,
seems like it's always Sunboy, and then I think we did see Chameleon Boy a little bit with that. Anybody else that we
Well,
can think of that he's?
and I mean, it's not. I don't know if you can call it like an overt connection or anything like that. But in the reboot, he and Violet seem to have this interesting friendship. And I mean, it's not like overt, right? It's nothing. It's not nearly as close as the friendship they put on the page with Kinetics. But there's like times when after Vi comes back onto the team, he's like, "Wow, you're way to take charge" and stuff like that. And in the Abnett and Landing Legion, you see them hanging out in the background and like they're workout buddies and stuff like that. It's so not an overt, super close relationship, but I think it's something that's an interesting relationship that really hadn't been explored at all.
Yeah, it was kind of tough coming up with this because he's sort
Yeah.
of always it's him and Dream Girl, like that's the connection. And as soon as like and when they get split up, they kind of don't know what to do with him, and he's kind of just there. And I mean, you'd almost say like he's obsessed with her. And so at the cost of all other friendships.
You guys both put the nail on this one earlier, right? XS, just from the perspective of the Robotica invasion storyline.
Yeah,
that was Jay's genius.
That's just me.
I wish I'd seen that. Yeah, you take the credit, Mister. So, definitely Dragon Swords.
I am the first one to admit, like I thought XS was one of the best characters in Reboot.
Yeah.
So every time she was showing up, I was probably paying a little bit more attention because I just thought she was one of the most developed. We'll get into this when we get to our episode, but anyways, again, that's another it's another diversion. It's another rabbit hole.
No, it's a good one though, because I initially I've never been that keen on having but little JLA characters or Shazam characters in the team. The only 20th century analogues I really want are the original Superboy and Supergirl.
Mm-hmm.
But she quickly sort of became such a great character. In my mind, the way she was drawn, I always thought it was like this little animated Captain Carrot type bunny character. But she was great in that Legion world. She is absolutely fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Just amazing.
I agree with you. Like normally I don't want analogs. Like I don't want a Lantern in the Legion. After the end of Reboot, I definitely don't want a Shazam character in the Legion. Like that was just painful. Yeah. But tying her to the Tornado Twins just made a ton of sense for Legion history. Like, so I thought it really worked. And I think, again, like I said, they wrote a teenage girl. Like she actually felt like you were reading a teenage girl character and a real person. So I was really a big fan of what they did. So anyway, we'll go back to that in a long time when we finally get to
like 3 years from now or so. Yeah.
Yes. So when we get that. Last Starboy question, and we always ask this: how do you want them to use Starboy going forward? Like we have a new Legion book coming out this year, fingers crossed. It should be this year. So Mart, as our guest, what do you want to see them do with Starboy?
What I'd really like to see is, yet more on who he is outside of the relationship with Dream Girl. And I would love to see him take a run at being leadership and win, but that's not going to happen until assuming that we still can have redo elections, until he's been built up in the comics over a couple of years to be worthy of it. Because when Nuru won the election, it was because it was mainly a lot of, I think it was, again, probably Initron, Cloney fans just sort of pushing forward to throw a curveball. But I'd like to see him earn the role of leader and then see what he can do in that position, because we know he's got one of the strongest power sets if used correctly. But let's let the rest of the Legion see how how good he is, and that would make me pretty happy. And put him back in the original costume.
Easy call, but okay.
Well, yeah, when you
I'm
do the original
joking, I'm
costume, you
joking.
mean the purple with the star, right? Is that what you're
Yes.
talking
And the
Okay.
majestic white cape. Would you not look
Yeah.
fantastic in that, James?
All right, Jim, how would you like them to use Starboy?
I mean, I can't disagree with anything that Mark just said. I think, definitely want to see him. I would hope that, we did get a glimpse of him in that Superman arc from Josh Williamson last year. But of course, that was a very dire and down situation. So we didn't really get a sense of his personality. I don't want to see this mental illness stuff unless they do it in a proper way. I'm fine with having them have that story, but I don't want them to short shrift it, right? It has to be addressing this in a proper way. But yeah, I definitely want to have him on the team. I am kind of a fan of either the classic Starfield or the 3-boot Starfield costume. I think either of those would be fantastic. And yeah, and like you said, I want to see more of this the stand-up stalwart guy. And I'd like for him to get his laurels every now and then. I'd like to see him get his just dues and praise from the rest of his team. How about you?
So I spent a lot of time thinking about this and going down a number of rabbit holes for the character. So I'd like to see more of the Xanthu used forward. So like him and Kid Quantum. And I know I'm one of the only people who likes Monstrous.
Oh, I like her.
Like,
Love it.
and like, right.
Justice
and
for Candy.
Atmos and like, yeah, like if all of them are Legionnaires, right? If we have a big Legion, actually have like a Xanthu contingent. And so he's kind of like the older brother to the rest of them or the leader of that. So we get a little bit more depth of his character, right? And it's kind of this own little sort of side group of the Legion that they can have a little fun with because that would make sense, right?
Yeah,
like four
totally.
Like the
people.
Uncanny Amazes.
Yeah. Like, so they're this team, they come, they join the Legion, they kind of all stick together. And then the one thing that I thought would be really fascinating to do is he comfortable dating Dream Girl when she's not from his planet? And you could actually have a lot of fun with sort of this planetary, like, I don't want to go full xenophobia on here, but like no, you should be dating somebody from your home planet. And he's like, no, she's awesome. I want to be with her. You could have a lot of fun with this. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to see Dream Girl chase after him. Like it's always been, he's this, oh, she's gorgeous and I've got to do this. I'd like to see it go from the opposite of her going, here's this guy, he's exactly what I'm looking for, because I don't want flighty or I don't want, because she's got her head in the clouds and she's so scientific. She does the opposite. Like she's like, I want this guy, like we keep saying stalwart, right? We keep saying steadfast. I want this guy I can trust and this guy who's not going to do something crazy and this guy, and flip it. Like flip that kind of, so she's chasing after him and he doesn't know what to do. I think there's more fun there. I think you could have a blast with that.
I would read that.
Right. Like, and I think you could do so much with him. Bring out his scientific background. Like both of his parents are scientists. He's got to have learned something. He can't be an idiot. Or make him a really good pilot or give him something. So he's bringing to the team like something that isn't just, I can make things heavy or I can increase mass. That's what I'd like to see. Like expand him a little bit more.
Yeah.
And DC could perhaps advertise to the comics readers that he's a mutant. I think they've rarely used the word, but it has been said in the comics, he's a mutant.
I think they should go for all of the Legion, right? They should all have another secondary purpose.
Yeah.
On the team, right? So you have like you mentioned, I think historically, I think Sunboy's always been kind of shown as being the pilot, right? The big pilot of the Legion. So something like that. Maybe he's the engineer. He's an engineer for their spaceships or something like that, right? Yeah, I think that would be kind of cool. I love the idea.
Or navigator, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and again, the costume. I actually think the 3-boot would be like kind of the coolest way to go with this, to go with that costume. But as long as it's the Starfield, I'm happy with that. But
well, he has the white cape, so yes.
You got to have the white cape. That's exactly the key. The white cape. Yeah. Again, like with all of these characters, like just give me a little bit more depth, have a little bit of fun, and play against kind of what's always been the stereotypical choice, right? Like go with. Let him be the awkward guy who's got the powers and doesn't think he's special, but everybody thinks he's, more than that. He's kind of a blank slate you can play with. So go nuts with it. Yeah. That would be mine. All right. Is there anything we've missed talking about Starboy? I mean, we've gone, it's a deep dive, but I know some people want deep dives to be like 3 or 4 hours. We're obviously not going to do that.
So, no, the only thing I'd like to, I didn't hear any opinions on the Archie Legion costume, the 0-hour costume.
Well, I guess, that was, I thought it was fine. It's obviously an homage to the original, right? Instead of a purple costume with a star, it's a
white and grey and yellow.
costume.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yellow.
But yeah, I thought it was fine. I thought it was
Yeah.
totally fine.
I'm not the biggest fan of tons of white in costumes. I want the pop of color to come off the page. And yet I say that saying Phantom Girl is one of the best costumes of all time. So I'm obviously going to contradict myself, but I want, in his case, I think it's tough with Starboy because he has such an iconic costume, and to not pull some Starfield element in just seems like you've missed a part of him that I think needs to be there.
Absolutely. Yeah, he should have the Starfield. Donald Troy should be in red. That's it.
Yeah, it's like I think of like Ultra Boy. Like no matter what you do, there has to be that green symbol on his chest.
Dragon, yeah.
And he's got to have the boots, right? Like that's got to be there, and like do whatever you want aside from that, but give me those.
No ponytail ever, thank you.
Yeah, no. That's a good rule for everybody. Like every guy, just don't give me a ponytail. It's just not. So I had one. I know how horrible they are. We don't need to see them.
You have blooming amazing hair. That lovely Malin streak. Wow. Well, to have hair.
There's a reason I have a hat on while we're recording. While we're recording this.
Unfortunately, as my hair kind of dries up or whatever, it just goes grayer and whiter, and so this is the best it's going to look.
What a problem to have. Lovely,
look, you get to wake up every day. You don't even have to think about it. It's awesome. I remember I went a good period of time where I would go in and just shave it down to like 2, so I don't have to do anything in the morning. I was so lazy, and I was like, I love that. And then they're like, you look horrible. Stop doing that.
No, purple my face and I'm Dr. Jimmel. No. Gimmel? I don't know.
Gimmel? I think Gimmel is good.
Who knows?
Okay.
So actually, one more thing. Do you think Tom Kallor? Do you think Tom Kallor is the 1950s version of? Sorry, non-1950s version of Tom Kelly? Is that what they were thinking of then? I could mean like Keller, like the surname Keller in All My Sons and things.
Yeah, I don't know. Since he has like one of the most normal first names of any Legionnaire, I never really gave too much thought about it.
Sorry.
That's a Tom. He's easy to say.
So I think probably Tom Keller, like maybe Helen Keller, and they took that name, and then it's funny. Like my kid brain, when I first started reading the Legion, it's Thom, because I saw that age, and I never put it together. Yeah. And even as an adult, I mentioned this before, I'm still like, okay, it's Tom. Although it still seems wrong.
When I was a kid growing up, there was a shoe store in the mall right by my house that was called Tom McCann. And it was THOM. So that's how I've been hearing it all my life. So
I know. Strictly speaking, that's how the sound Tom is spelled THOM. But to me, it's like spelling. If your name is Matthew with 2 T, you spell it Matt with 1 T, or Rick R-I-C. It's pretentious.
And if I learned nothing else, I taught English for many years. If I learned nothing else, English makes no sense and is not the dumbest language on the planet, but it's in the ballpark.
Yeah.
So I try to teach English to somebody who doesn't speak English, and you'll realize how crazy of a language it is. And they're like, why do you do that? Why is that? Yeah, why is that letter there? Yeah. And you're like,
I've got a fistful of the letter U I could give you. At least your spellings are very sensible.
No. The extra U is the sensible one. The Americans are just lazy and they took all the U's out.
It, yeah. But yours makes sense. Yeah. I'm keeping ours because I've learned them. But yeah. Well,
we have in Canada, we have a weird, some of it we spell British and some of it we spell American, but like officially we're supposed to spell it British style. So we always have the extra U's and whatever. And and the reason why is because France took over England at a certain point in time and said, this is how you're going to spell all these words, whether it makes sense or not. Yeah, sorry, I could rant about this for a while. And we're going to talk about the Legion, and we've ranted enough about them.
Sorry, I wasn't letting you go. I was just going to say I was chatting in a Facebook group of sub-editors, copy editors today, and we were talking about, who done it, how many N's in who done it. And I'm like, well, I thought it was one growing up, but it's 2 in British English, 1 in the US English, don't know about Canadian English. Let's go for 3. Let's go for the COG spelling.
Yeah, it's all good. Okay. I was going to say, since we're going to wrap this up, Mart, where can everybody find you online?
You can find me at the blog with the title Too Dangerous for a Girl, where I wish to run 2 or 3 times a week about current comics, usually DC, because Marvel isn't publishing a lot that I want to read. And I do read other comics, but when I do review them, don't get much feedback. And I like a bit of feedback, You can find me in ancient letter columns, ancient comics, just generally online. Find me on Facebook, find me on Twitter @MaudGray. If you want me, you can find me, honestly. probably best not to want me.
And Jim, where can everybody find you?
I have my Legion Reviews website at jimboslegion.blogspot.com. You can find me personally on Blue Sky at jimbofett.bsky.social, on Reddit as jimbofett87, that's with 2 T's, and on Discord as Jimbo Fett on the Legion Fan Club Discord and the CPOV Discord. How about you, Jay?
All right. I've got a weekly column at jmlonglivethelegion.blogspot.com. I'll get that out right. You can find me on Discord and on Reddit at Drake Burrows. And again, I'm on the Legion board, and we're also on the certain POV boards as well. You can find me on Blue Sky at jmckernan.bsky.social. And you can find this podcast at numerous places. You can find it on Instagram. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Facebook. Blue Sky. Jim, what's the address for that?
We are longlivethelegion.bsky.social, or we just send us an email, just like Mark does, and let us know what you think about any of our episodes at longlivethelegion2025@gmail.com. And if you want to be on the show, that's how we got Martin on the show here. So give us a call and let us know what you think.
I thoroughly recommend anyone does that.
The bar is not especially high to be a guest on the show. So just, if you send us an email and sound like you're, and know what you're talking about. No, I know it sounds crazy. We've got tons of episodes figured out. And if there's something you want to talk about, we're always looking for people who love talking about the Legion just as much as we do. And that's why we love having guests on here. So yeah, Mart reaches out to us, sends us great emails, reminds us of things that we forgot, which
we do.
Happens more than I'd like to admit. And so we're happy to hear from you. One last request, and we make this request all the time. Please please subscribe, please give us a 5-star rating. Anything that can help us, build this podcast. As we get closer and closer to the new Legion book coming out, we'd like to be one of your top search results when you're looking for a Legion podcast. That's where we want to be, and you can help us. We're going to turn off the mission monitor board, and we're going to end the episode as we always do. Long live the Legion.
Long live the Legion.
Long live the Legion. Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun. Whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen,
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
and on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there, so we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.